The Aztecs, who actually mostly called themselves Mexica, did not suddenly appear as a people already powerful and organized. According to their tradition, they came from a mythical place called Aztlan, probably located in northwestern Mexico, or at least linked to a memory of migration. Historical and archaeological sources indicate that they arrived in the Valley of Mexico after long migrations, in a context marked by the collapse of the Toltec world and competition among many city-states. Their most famous legend tells that the god Huitzilopochtli ordered them to settle where they would see an eagle perched on a cactus. This sign was identified in the area of Lake Texcoco, and according to tradition, led to the founding of Tenochtitlan in 1325, the city that would become the heart of one of the most impressive empires in pre-Columbian America.
At the beginning, the Mexica were not the dominant power in the region. For a long time, they were a marginal people, forced to integrate into a political environment already occupied by more prestigious centers. Their rise was the result of an exceptional combination of adaptation, warfare, alliances, and organizational ability. At the beginning, the Mexica were not the dominant power in the region. For a long time, they were a marginal people, forced to integrate into a political environment already occupied by more prestigious centers. Their rise was the result of an exceptional combination of adaptation, warfare, alliances, and organizational ability. At its peak, Tenochtitlan surpassed 140,000 inhabitants and became one of the most dense and spectacular cities in the Mesoamerican world.
This fact is fundamental because it shows that Aztec power was not based only on warfare or religious terror, but also on intensive agriculture, bureaucracy, taxation, trade networks, and high-level urban planning.
The empire truly consolidated in the 15th century, when the Mexica became the core of a large regional political structure based on tribute, military campaigns, and ideological control.
The Nahuatl language became a kind of lingua franca across a large part of central Mexico, and the capital filled with temples, markets, palaces, and schools for the elite. The main religious center was the Templo Mayor, dedicated to two key deities, Huitzilopochtli, god of war and the sun, and Tlaloc, god of rain and fertility. This dual dedication reveals much about the Aztec mentality. Their world was based on a balance between war and agriculture, conquest and survival, blood and rain, violence and cosmic order. Aztec religion was not a folkloric detail, but the mental architecture of the state. The gods were not distant beings. They were forces that had to be constantly nourished, honored, and appeased through rituals, offerings, self-sacrifice, and in some cases human sacrifice. And this brings us to the central question of our title. Why did the Aztecs sacrifice human beings to the gods?
The most serious historical explanation is that, in the Mexica cosmological vision, the world was not stable by nature. The Aztecs believed they lived in a fragile phase of creation, preceded by other worlds that had already been destroyed.
The sun, life, the rhythm of time, and even the continuity of human existence had to be nourished. Blood and the human heart were considered vital energy, an offering capable of sustaining the cosmos and maintaining the movement of the sun.
In particular, Huitzilopochtli and Tenochtitlan were associated with this idea of sacred nourishment. Reducing everything to cruelty or fanaticism would be a mistake. Sacrifice was also a political tool.
It served to terrify enemies, consecrate the power of rulers, transform warfare into a religious duty, and publicly demonstrate that Tenochtitlan was the center of the world. In other words, Aztec sacrifice was at the same time theology, propaganda, and a technology of power. This does not mean that the empire was defined only by blood. The surviving sources, especially indigenous and colonial ones, reveal a much more complex society. One with specialized merchants, artisans, priests, officials, warriors, schools, courts, and a rich intellectual culture. One of the most valuable sources for understanding the Mexica world is the Florentine Codex, compiled in the 16th century by Bernardino de Sahagún, together with Nahua collaborators and artists. It is considered one of the most important sources on Mexica culture, because it records religion, economy, social life, history, botany, festivals, and even the story of the conquest from an indigenous perspective.
In recent years, digital access to this heritage and critical reinterpretations of colonial manuscripts have allowed scholars to refine the picture, distinguishing more clearly between Spanish propaganda, indigenous memory, and what emerges from archaeology. From an archaeological perspective as well, recent discoveries are changing the stereotypical image of the Aztecs.
In 2025, a large geochemical study of 788 obsidian objects from the Templo Mayor revealed that the Mexica did not rely on a single supply source, but used materials from at least 8 different regions, including territories outside or even rival to the empire. The study confirmed a ritual preference for green obsidian from the Sierra de Pachuca, but it also revealed trade networks far more complex and less centralized than previously believed. This is extremely important because it shows that the Aztec Empire was not only a military machine of conquest, it was also a civilization embedded in sophisticated exchange networks, where materials held practical, symbolic, and political value.
Another field of ongoing research concerns the Tzompantli, the great rack of skulls displayed in the sacred precinct of Tenochtitlan. For a long time, popular narratives imagined it almost exclusively as a collection of the skulls of defeated male warriors. However, recent analyses conducted by INH and published in 2025 on more than 200 remains revealed a more complex reality. Not only adult men, but also women and young individuals, including children. This does not erase the military significance of sacrifice, but it forces scholars to reconsider the composition of the victims and the function of certain rituals. Bioarchaeological research using DNA and stable isotopes is shifting the discussion from stereotypes to individual lives, providing a more precise and less cinematic understanding of Aztec sacrifice.
In 2026, another major discovery was made at the Templo Mayor. New offerings numbered 186, 187, and 189 were interpreted by archaeologists as part of a large unified ceremony from the reign of Moctezuma Iluwikimina, or Moctezuma I, one of the rulers who transformed Tenochtitlan into an imperial power. The materials found connect these deposits to other offerings previously excavated and suggest a colossal ritual event organized in a coordinated manner. This type of discovery is extremely important because it shows the Aztecs not as a static civilization, but as a historical system that continually built sacred monuments, deposited objects of immense symbolic value, and reorganized religious space to assert its power. Each new offering discovered beneath Mexico City adds details about how Mexica power presented itself before both gods and humans.
Documents rediscovered in recent years are also expanding our understanding. In 2024, Mexico recovered the codices of San Andres Tetepilco, 3 manuscripts from the 16th and 17th centuries preserving indigenous pictographic traditions and texts in Nahuatl and Spanish. They are valuable because they recount the founding of San Andres Tetepilco, its integration into the colonial order, and above all, provide a new perspective on Tenochtitlan history, even being considered by some scholars a continuation of the Tiro de la Peregrinación or Boturini Codex.
In essence, these codices do not speak only about the survival of ancient documents, but about the survival of indigenous memory after the fall of the empire. This is an important point to emphasize. The Aztecs did not vanish into nothingness, but continued to narrate their history and negotiate their place in the colonial world. The political end of the empire came with the expedition of Hernán Cortés in 1519. But even here, the story should not be oversimplified.
The Spanish did not defeat an invincible colossus alone. They exploited existing rivalries, formed alliances with peoples hostile to Mexican domination, captured Montezuma II, used specific military advantages, and were aided by devastating epidemics to which indigenous populations had no immunity. After a brutal campaign, Tenochtitlan fell on August 13, 1521. With this date, the Aztec Empire ended as an independent political structure, but the Mexica did not disappear as a people, language, memory, and cultural presence.
Many indigenous elites adapted, Nahuatl survived, the symbols of Tenochtitlan continued to live on, and even the image of the eagle on the cactus would eventually become one of the fundamental symbols of Mexican identity. When we think about the Aztecs today, We are often trapped between two misleading extremes: the romantic myth of a lost civilization and the monstrous image of a people obsessed with blood. The historical truth is far more interesting.
The Mexica were migrants who became builders of a Great Lake metropolis, brilliant farmers, ruthless warriors, masters of tribute strategy, priests of a complex cosmology, refined artists, and administrators of a vast empire. Human sacrifices were real and central, but they alone do not explain the Aztec world. To understand them fully, we must consider religion, politics, urban planning, trade, propaganda, memory, and archaeology together. And this is exactly what recent discoveries are teaching us. The more we excavate beneath Mexico City and reread indigenous sources with new eyes, the more we discover a civilization less caricatured and far deeper one, capable of building one of the most powerful symbolic and political systems in the Americas.